Hey guys, it is November 6th, so it is the 6th day in Unreal Nodevember, and today we're going to be tackling some platforms. So let's get started. We're going to start with a new folder, and we're going to call this one our platforms folder. And just to keep it nice and organized, I'm going to set a color to it. So right click, set color, and blue. Okay, so we're going to go with blue for our platforms. That's good. And now that we're in that folder, let's right click and make a blueprint class, and again we're going with actor. And we're going to call this moving platform underscore BP. Okay, so we've got that set. Let's open it up, and I'm just going to drag this tab into the window here. So first thing we should start with is grabbing a mesh to use. So go with static mesh, bring it in, and we'll just call this our platform. Okay, and we need a way to make this move. Now there's a couple ways we could do this. We could do it in the event graph, and we could use a timeline node, and we can animate it this way, but that's not the way we're going to do it today. We're going to set up something that's a little bit easier to use, a little bit easier to make even. So let's go back to the viewport. I'm going to go add, and we are going to move in a interp to movement. That's the one we need. So we're going to use this interp to movement to get our platform moving. And before I get any further, I should give this a mesh. So let's go cube. Shape cube works well. And we'll just scroll down, make it a little smaller. Grab these two, make it a little bigger. Compile. Awesome. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, let's go into not our event graph, but our construction script. And everything, I believe, yeah, everything will be done in the construction script. We won't even need the event graph for this. So first thing we are going to do is let's just drag in our interp to movement, and then we're going to drag off, and we're going to get set control points. Okay. And then from this node here, the control points node, we're just going to drag down. We're going to get make array. And before I forget, I'm just going to connect my construction script up to my set for the interp movement. Alright, now we need 2 pins, and we are going to go make interp control point, move that over, and we need a second one as well, and we're going to hook that up. Now we need to tell these interp control points where to go. So let's do that by making a couple variables like we did in the last couple of videos. And we're going to call this location A, and it's going to be of the variable type vector. And what we want to have here is show 3D widget. Oh, my bad. First we want to click on the eyeball here so we can actually edit the properties in the editor. Then we want to have show 3D widget, and we're going to have exposed to cinematics as well. And now let's make a second one, and this one is going to be location B. There we go, keep the same naming convention. And again, we want to make sure we can edit it in the editor, and we want show 3D widget and exposed to cinematics. Okay. So with that done, we are going to drag it in, and we're going to get it, and we're going to drag in location B, and we're going to get that as well. And this will be the position we use to tell the platform to go in between. Next, we're going to need a third variable here, and this is going to be the duration. Okay, and it's actually going to be a float. Go here. And again, we're going to want this to be editable in the editor, which again, just so you know, this is the editor here. Okay, so first we're going to get duration, and then we're going to get our interp movement, drag off of here, and we're going to type in set duration. That's what I was looking for. And make sure you use the one for interp to movement component, not the variable we just created. Okay, and now our interp to movement is going to be the target. So I'll actually just move that down here. And duration is going to just be the variable we use to set the duration. So we could set it right in here. We could set it to 10 seconds, and then it will take 10 seconds to go in between each point. But the reason that we went ahead and made this variable is, again, so that we can change it in the editor. And that should really be it. So compile that, and now go back into our interp movement on the left here. And you can see we have a few different movement types, and what we actually want to set this to for this example is ping pong. And what this will do is it will literally ping pong the cube in between location A and location B on a loop. So we're going to compile. Let's drag this out. So there's a couple ways you can change this. You can click on these little 3D nodes here, and you can drag these out, these little widgets, whatever you want to call these. I'm sure they have a proper name. And if you're not seeing these, just go back into your blueprint and go back to your variables and make sure that number 1, you've clicked the eyeball, and number 2, you've hit show 3D widget and expose to cinematics, and this will make sure that you can see these nice little widgets that you need to better set your locations. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, because if I hit simulate, you can see our cube is going crazy. And that is because we have not set a duration. So we need to tell it how long it's going to take to go in between each point. So let's do something like 3 seconds, because it's not an overly large area. So if it takes 3 seconds to go back and forth, that should be a good pace. And we'll just hit simulate. And there you go. You've got a basic moving platform. And basically the higher the number you put here, the slower it will go. So we just had 3 seconds. We changed it to 10 seconds. Hit play. And you can see it's moving quite slow. And then you don't just have to have this moving back and forth. So what we could do is we could drag this to about here. Actually, no, we'll delete this, and we're going to alt click and drag this over. Now I'm going to reset location B so that it's back at its origin, and I'll even reset location A. But I'm going to want to select location A in the menu here. I'm going to drag it up. Okay, so it's going up here, and you'll see why. So basically what I've done is I've put the second location for this platform up in the air, and this platform will move up and down, and this one will move left and right. Now you're going to have to play with it a little bit if you want these to line up perfectly. What I would do for this one is just kind of drag it over. Maybe stop and play again. I would just drag it over until it's not colliding anymore. And we'll just watch it move ever so slowly. Boom, something like that. That's fine. The overlap isn't a big deal for the sake of this tutorial, so we'll hit stop. And to show that this works, I'm going to go play in selected viewport. And if I want, I can jump up here as soon as it's low enough. There we go. So I can jump up, and it'll take me up. Or if I want to jump onto this one, it'll move me left and right. And there you go. It's all pretty straightforward. This is a super easy thing to do. And this is why I didn't do the timeline version of this. For me personally, I don't really like using timelines if I don't have to. I would rather set it up like this. I like having everything accessible in the editor so that if I decide, hey, this is colliding too much, I can move everything over and have it so the platforms line up a little bit easier. It's all up to your individual use case here. So we can actually set something a little bit different. So for sake of time, I'm going to just duplicate the platform blueprint, and instead of, oops, we're going to call it BP moving platform. Oops, okay, yeah, we'll just call it moving platform BP1. We're going to make this into a one-way. So basically it will go one shot, and hit compile, and go back to our map. Okay, and this one here is our one shot, and I can just drag this out. Oop. wrong one. So I want to drag A out a bit, and B we will just select the node and do it this way. Okay. And let's reset A. There we go. So now, if I hit simulate, oh, I didn't set a duration, so that's why it moved instantly. Let's set this to something like 5 seconds. And stop that. So yeah, don't set it while you're simulating like I just did. That's a mistake. It will just kick you back to 0. Now we hit play, and you'll see this platform on the right here is going to move over and then stop. So this would be useful for something like, say you had like a secret room you wanted to get to, but you only wanted to give your player one shot, or you could have it teleport out through a wall. And so let's do that actually. Have it teleport out through a wall. And then you could spawn another one in. You could have it set to a timer to spawn another one in. You could use an event overlap, so when your player walks over, it'll spawn another one in. But there's a few different ways you can go about it. Okay, so let's make this a little bit more useful. Let's give it some feedback for the user. So this time we are going to add a component, and we are going to add in a box collision. And we're going to call this the trigger. Okay, and let's go into the viewport. We'll just fix this trigger up a little bit. So what we want is we want it to be, let's make it bigger. Okay, and now we want it to be about as tall as, not quite as tall as our player, but big enough that when we're in there, we can trigger an event using this box. So we'll hit compile real quick, and we're going to go into the event graph now, and we're going to right click, add an event, and on begin overlap, we can go here and go cast to third person character. Right, and as always, other actor goes into the object here. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to create a dynamic material instance, and let's just select a material. Okay, that works. And then we're going to right click and go set material, and we're going to set the material for the platform. And let's link this up. Okay. And now what we'll do is hit this return node and plug that into the material. So whatever dynamic material instance we create, it will set the material for the platform. And let's copy all this and bring it down. And we are going to go to trigger, and we're going to add an event and end overlap and bring it up. Okay. Whoops. Other actor, hook that up there. Now instead of creating a dynamic material instance, we're actually going to get rid of that. And we want to find out what material we're using here. So we're using basic wall. What we'll do is we'll just remember that, go into event graph, and we'll just type in basic wall. Okay. So what this will do is when we overlap as our third person character, it will create a dynamic material instance. And what material did we use here? Let's use something different, something we can actually see. We use the door material. It's just something different. There we go. So it's gonna have it'll be more visible. So sorry, let me start that over. When you begin overlapping as a third-person character, we will create a dynamic material instance of the door material, and we're going to set that material to our platform. And then on this one, on component end overlap, so when we stop overlapping, when we're not on the platform anymore, as our third-person character, it will set the material back to the basic wall. So let's compile. And now let's hit play. And you'll see that when I do that, we have a material, and when I hop off, it returns back. Now as you can see, when I'm jumping over, it's already setting it before I've even landed on it. And depending on what you're trying to do, say you're trying to like show your character or show your player that you're about to land on that platform, this would work. But if you didn't want that, we can fix this by going back into the blueprint, going to trigger, go to the viewport, and we're just going to first move that so we can start scaling it. And we can just make this a little bit tighter to the base of the platform. So now we compile, play, and if I jump, you'll see, whoops, you'll see when I jump over it, I'm not changing it until my foot actually touches it. So same with this, until I'm right on it, the material will not change. And it's good to do stuff like that for just for player feedback, so they know that they're either on the platform or they're about to land on the platform. It might not work for all game styles, but it's just something extra you can do. It's a nice little touch. Of course, you can add like play sound at location and give these platform sound effects, all that stuff. But that's really it for this tutorial. I didn't want to get too crazy. The last couple were starting to get a little complex in terms of beginner tutorials. So this one's nice and simple. So I hope you guys found it useful, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.